Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Disney Dining Show. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined at the table this week by my good friend Steve Porter.
Hello.
Denny Sunderly.
Hi there.
And back on the controls, our very own Fiasco.
Hey, everybody.
So this week, we are going to talk about the best restaurants with shows. With shows. Now, that leaves a lot of interpretation, and I intentionally did that, and we don't coordinate our responses to this. Just kind of throw the topic out there. Everybody comes in, and as someone just needed to be reminded a moment ago, when they started talking about what's on their lists for things, save it for the show, because we want it all to be nice and fresh. Right, Steve?
Yeah.
So, we have not coordinated these lists in any way, shape, or form, but I'm going to start off with what I consider to be the best dinner and show at Walt Disney World. I'd be surprised if anybody disagreed with me on this, but Hoop-de-Doo review.
Amen.
Mm-hmm. I was just there again the other night for Sean's birthday. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen this show. It is the longest running dinner show in America. Been running consistently since the late 70s, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. And no matter how, and it's the same show every time. It's not like it changes.
Well, Christmas, there's some Christmas.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, generally speaking, the show remains very, very consistent. The jokes are kind, always the same, and but still hilarious and really, really, really well done. Is Hoop-de-Doo not on anybody's list?
No.
Number one on my list.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Fiasco?
So I can't put Hoop-de-Doo as number one. I haven't been since I was a kid, but remembering back as a kid, I thought the show was really entertaining. However, and this was like 15 years ago, so it holds no weight now. Don't use it to judge anything. This is just what happened to me 15 years ago and why I might have not been back to Hoop-de-Doo in a while because of it. I did get food poisoning there 15 years ago.
No, that'll turn you off to it.
So I haven't been back since I was a kid, so I can't classify it as like my top or close to my top, but I do remember it being good, and I've only heard good things about it, which is, telling me I should probably get back there.
You probably should.
Yeah.
So what is on your list? Give me one from your list, Fiasco.
So I don't know if you would all classify this as a show, but if we use the term kind of loosely, I'd like to say Teppan Edo is definitely on my list. Mm-hmm. I love some hibachi. I was actually just talking to Pete the other day about hibachi and how Haley's been cooking me up some stuff. But while Teppan Edo isn't the best hibachi food I've ever had, their cooks are absolutely phenomenal with the tricks and stuff that they could do, like throwing eggs in their hat and all the different things, the Mickey volcano, which everybody does, but just the tricks they do with like the shrimp tails and everything, really, really stellar performances by the chefs.
I don't have this on my list, but I will add, I think that they have some jokes at Teppan Edo that are like, like you said, the volcano thing, that happens at all hibachi places. But I've noticed that some of the chefs and the cooks there have unique jokes that I haven't heard at any other place.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay, this is not just like the standard script that they're going on. They let these guys do some creative things and some fun things. So I think if you've done hibachi before, it's still worth checking out.
Absolutely.
Well, and you're in the middle of Epcot's World Showcase. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. Just the getting to be there, and of course, it's Disney Does Hibachi, and it's so much fun. They are entertaining, absolutely.
Was that on anyone else's list?
It was not on mine.
I considered it, but I did not officially put it
me
on the
too.
list.
It's not on my list, so it really doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's not on my list. It really doesn't count.
Wrong answer.
All right, Danny, what about you?
Okay.
Give us one from your list.
Beer Garden. Beer Garden's on my list. So I've recently been with, just a couple of times recently with a team of friends, and whether you like sauerkraut or not, sauerkraut is not my favorite. There's something for everyone there, and the show is so much fun. Like, you can, if you want to get up and dance to a polka, you can do it because everybody else is doing it too.
Steve does that all the time.
Yeah, it's my favorite activity.
As you do. So, I mean, it's a lot of fun, and the pretzel bread alone is a winner in my book.
I agree with you. I think it's good. We gave the buffet for lunch a fairly good review not that long ago. It did not make my list.
Okay.
Therefore, it really isn't important. But I would agree with you. It's a good show.
It almost made my list. I was really considering it, and it was kind of when you think of entertainment, and it was kind of one of the first things that came to mind. But then I had a couple that beat it out.
Okay. It's just fun.
So what's one on yours, Steve?
Okay, this one I don't know. I'll just say, I'll go out and say it. I think Trader Sam's has some. Okay. Yes, it's seen as a bar, but there are small plate options there that I think you can make a meal out of, and there certainly is a lot of entertainment going on in there, like, guys swimming around with all the different, things that are happening on the walls and everything like that. So while it's not a typical restaurant, I think you can make a meal out of it and be entertained.
This one I'm going to disagree with you on. If we're talking about Walt Disney World's Trader Sam's, I think it is way too over the top. I think it is too, they try too hard to the point where you can't enjoy yourself. You can't have a conversation with someone because every 3 minutes, it just, like, I look at the one out in California. Let me finish.
I know. I'm just thinking.
I'm looking at I think of the one out in California, which is where it all started, and it seems like the insecure younger ours seems like the insecure younger brother trying to overcompensate to seem like they're cool, and in the process they just make themselves look stupid. The last time I was in there, I was so close to getting up and walking out. We're in there with a group of people. I'm trying to talk to somebody, and every time we start talking, somebody's coming around squirting water on you, and there's all these bells and whistles going off. And I'm like, okay, once in a while, that's cute. But when it's constantly, every single drink you order, there has to be some kind of event going on. It just gets old.
Okay.
Fast.
Here's where I'm going to disagree. I think, yes, there's lots of stuff going on, and as a local, I won't go in there every time. I'll prefer to sit outside sometimes. But I think that's the perspective as someone that has the opportunity to go in there all the time. I think as a one time every, 2 or 3 years or whatever, like most people go on vacation to Walt Disney World, it's an experience where, yes, we can chat a little bit, but that's not really about our conversation with each other. It's like, let's experience this together in our surroundings. Where if you're a local, you don't really care about that because you're just there with friends.
But even if I was there, even just from the standpoint of having the quote unquote experience, they're trying too hard. They're just trying too hard. Where, Trader Sam's in California is just cool. They're not trying to be cool. It just is. Disney World is trying to be cool. And this is what, anytime they do this ripoff of something going on in California, Disney World screws it up because, look, we can do it too. The idea is our best stuff. Go back to Adventurers Club. It was original, right? It was amazing. Original. And if that was still around, that would be the top of my damn list, even though it's not a restaurant. But that was Disney being cool. Trader Sam's is Disney trying way too hard. World trying way too hard.
All right. I will give up a little bit saying that I think Disneyland's is cooler, but I don't think that it means that ours is not cool. It just means it's a little less cool.
Okay.
Tries too hard. All right. Next on my list, 50s Primetime Cafe. Mm-hmm. One of the most entertaining places you'll ever eat, especially if you get a good cast member who's really into the role. I've had some really memorable experiences. If you're not familiar with it, this is kind of themed around what a 50s sitcom kitchen would look like. You're all family, you're all cousins,
yes.
Mm-hmm.
and you're sitting around a kitchen table being served quintessential classic American comfort food. and there's a lot of back and forth with the cast members, and if they overhear you using a bad word, you may get a hat made for you that says potty mouth on it. If you don't eat your vegetables, they may, draw attention to you and then make airplane noises as they try and feed you your vegetables, or make you stand in the corner. I did that to my nephew once, my nephew James, where I didn't want to eat my vegetables and I distracted him. And while he was distracted, I pushed all my vegetables onto his plate.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
And then because he didn't like them. He didn't like the vegetables at all. And then he got called out by the cast member. Really cool experience. Now that was, 15 years ago. 15 years ago. But still remember it.
Yes.
Like it was yesterday.
And it's still that good.
Yes.
I think
and it's still that good.
Yeah, I think a lot of things with Walt Disney World, and this actually, Common Ground made my list too.
Mine too.
But I think with a lot of Walt Disney World things, unfortunately, I feel like over the last 10, 15 years or whatever, it's like, remember when this used to be so great? I feel like the service and the humor and all that kind of stuff, they haven't watered it down. It's the same experience, and it's still amazing.
And I highly recommend the fried chicken and the meatloaf.
And it sounds kind of gross, but the peanut butter and jelly milkshake is really good.
I love the pot roast. So
I've never been a fan of pot roast.
love their pot roast.
But all right, so Fiasco.
Yes.
One from your list, please.
So real quick, along with the 50s primetime, everything around that category of like those themed restaurants are all really good. So like Whispering Canyon, Jungle Skipper Canteen, all have the whole staff kind of playing along with a theme. And I think all three restaurants they have their own spin on their food, which could be either your thing or not, but I think they're all fantastic. But this my next pick, I know not everybody in the room is going to agree with for a fact. However, I like it. I do get the same thing every single time. I get the Turkey Club with the fried pickles.
Which restaurant is it?
But that's at Sci-Fi Dine-In Theater.
It's actually on my list.
Oh, is it really?
There you
Good,
go.
good, good.
It's actually on my list. Not because the food is any good, because the food isn't good. Okay? It just isn't. But it is a unique venue.
Yeah.
Where you're sitting in cars watching a drive-in movie, very much that 60s drive-in, watch a cheesy sci-fi movie. They're running the promos from all these old sci-fi movies. Mm-hmm. So it is, it's very unique.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, as opposed to 50s primetime and Hoop-Dee-Doo, you're actually getting a good meal at those places. You're not getting one, in spite of apparently what he likes.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I've gone there and I've tried other things back in the day, and I remember thinking it was very mediocre. I wasn't crazy about it until I landed on this Turkey Club. I mean, I would recommend that if you're like, oh, the food at Sci-Fi is terrible, maybe give this Turkey Club a shot. Okay. And also they have fried pickles, and I love fried pickles. They're my go-to side or snack. But it's like it's a whole grain wheat croissant, and then turkey, tomato, and then they have like avocado aioli, and it's thebomb.com.
So I've never eaten at Sci-Fi, and I've wanted to. I just never have. But I've been in there before to look around, and what struck me when I was in there is how quiet it is in that restaurant, because everyone is enraptured by what is by the show. Mm-hmm. The whole reason it's on your list is for this show. From little ones to grandma and grandpa, everyone is mesmerized by what's happening on the screen and the unique environment. So I look forward to getting to go. But it's very interesting. I've never heard a restaurant as quiet as that.
Yeah.
So.
All right, what about you? What's
Okay.
another one on your list?
So on my list, the next thing I go to is Garden Grill in the Land Pavilion at Epcot. So while it's a character dining establishment, it's also a rotating, revolving restaurant. And so as someone who loves the history, I love Living with the Land. I love old Epcot, the whole 9 yards. And the house that sits in Living with the Land, if you're eating in the Garden Grill restaurant, you actually get to see into the second story window of the house. And you know, as you're sitting there, they've put that there especially for the diners in the restaurant.
Right.
There's, the whole bedroom is set up and there's a lamp that's lit on the bedside table. And when I saw that, I was so geeked out about that because they did that just for me, because for us who get to eat in this restaurant.
That's old school Disney details.
It is.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. And
Unfortunately, it is old school. It's not new school, but
it was really, really cool. And the characters come straight to your table. You don't have to schlep the kids all over the restaurant.
and the meal is also particularly good.
It is really yummy.
I got to say, Garden Grill, the last few times I've been there for breakfast or for dinner, I've had very good experiences. So, and the character interaction was wonderful.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I'm taking some liberty with this list. I've gone outside Disney World for two of my,
Okay.
and over to the Wonder. I've been on the Wonder twice this year, and I cannot do great places to eat with shows and not talk about Tiana's Place on the Wonder, because I'm going to tell you something. The entertainment during those meals was absolutely incredible. Like some of the best I've ever seen. They have this 3-piece jazz band. And this guy, the lead singer, I don't know his name, but the lead singer of this band, this guy could do albums. This guy could do, when I tell you, he is absolutely incredible. It's just unbelievable. And then the cast members that play Tiana, same. I mean, like it's unbelievable.
I've never been on the Wonder, but I've watched. I know about Tiana's Place, and I've specifically watched YouTube videos, just as many as I could, because I'm enamored by the idea of it. And I think it's kind of crazy that there's never been a Tiana's Place brought to
that would
Right.
if they could. But you see, I don't know if it's the problem, because another one on my list is Animators Palette, specifically the older Animators palettes on the Magic and the Wonder. The shows that are done during the meal, throughout the meal. But the thing is those are all timed, because you have to, on a cruise, you have to start your meal at a certain time, and it's going to end roughly around a certain time. You can't do that.
I wonder if they could make some sort of alternative version where it kind of goes on a cycle or something like that, where it doesn't matter when you enter into the show, it's performing all the time.
I guess they could do dinner, true dinner theater with it.
But Tiana's at the New Reflections, because we know we're getting a Princess and the Frog themed restaurant.
True, yeah.
Wouldn't it be amazing if it was just taken from the Wonder and placed on the water side there at Reflections?
I'll get in line now.
Amazing.
Especially if you get the guy that sings on the One on the Wonder.
There you go.
Just awesome.
So, what about you, Steve?
Fiasco addressed it a little bit, but Skipper Canteen. It's not over the top entertainment because there's no stage and all, but the servers are always in character. They always have jokes. It's really great food, probably some of the best in the Magic Kingdom in my opinion, if not the best in the Magic Kingdom. It's just a funny. They have kind of shared jokes from the Jungle Cruise. If you've been on the Jungle Cruise before, I don't know. I like it. I think it's not of my list. It's probably the least of the entertainment side of things, but
yeah, I mean, I like Jungle Skipper Canteen. Never would have made my list as a show. A couple of jokes at the table side doesn't cut it. And for me, in terms of the, what I'd be looking for. Not when we're talking about 50s primetime. Not when we're talking about Hoop-Dee-Doo, things like that. I don't think it. I personally, I like Jungle Skipper Canteen. I've given it good reviews, but I wouldn't characterize it as a show. So I'm sorry, Steve. You're wrong.
I'm wrong.
Well, my husband and I spent about 10 minutes in the library, the little library pass-through, looking at all the spines of all the books, because there's tons of Disney history nods. There's a wink
Yeah.
and a nod in every book. It's awesome.
One of the butterfly collection?
Uh-huh, yeah.
I think some of those are Lillian Disney's butterflies.
The whole collection.
Oh,
Yeah, it's all the butterflies at Jungle Skipper is her own personal collection that they put up.
That's so
Just
cool.
incredible.
That is cool.
I mean, that's just a nod in your general direction, and I love anytime that's given to people. Who
All right, with just because we got to wrap up.
Yep.
With everything that's on your list, I want you to pick one that you think is the best dinner and show at Walt Disney World. Fiasco?
Come back to me. I want to think about it.
Oh, mine's easy. I can go. Hoop-de-doo by a mile. It's like in another tier way above the rest of any of the things I mentioned.
Without a doubt, Hoop-de-Doo,
I would agree.
100%. I have to say that Hoop-de-Doo, the food is great, the entertainment is great,
Yeah.
consistently, and you could do a lot worse and pay a lot more.
And there's an interactive element. The washboards, when you're just, playing along for the kids, that's huge. If your kid buys in on and feels comfortable with what's going on, and the food is so good.
Not to get too Disney nerd about this, but I love Disney Parks history. I love the early history of Disneyland and World, so the 1970s era for World and the 50s and 60s at Land. And I think that there's something special that's been bottled and maintained at Hoop-de-Doo that has that magic. I feel like you get to teleport yourself or go back in time when you go to Hoop-de-Doo and experience like what Walt Disney World was. I wasn't alive for it, but it feels like that was the experience that was had back then.
I agree. I think that's why I say when I say they haven't really changed it much, I think part of its appeal is that it is that classic Disney experience, and they've left it alone. They have left it alone so far. I will tell you, normally I don't get too worked up when they close things. I'll get upset, but I'll tell you, I would start a campaign if they ever tried to. There was a rumor, we'd gotten a rumor months ago that as part of what they were doing with Reflections, they were going to get rid of
Oh, dear.
Hoop-de-Doo. It turned out that it was Mickey's Backyard Barbecue that was going, which no one's shedding a tear over. But had it been Hoop-de-Doo, I honestly would have started a campaign. So, but you agree, Hoop-de-Doo?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's just something for everyone, and it is so much fun. And if you're show averse, and you just don't want to be as interactive as others, there are opportunities. You can sit upstairs and kind of be removed from things if you just want to observe.
Yeah, if you don't,
the show.
right? If you don't want because it happened to me. It happened to me Tuesday night because of where I was sitting. The one woman came and sat on my lap, and there was a spotlight on me, and we had just spent 10 hours running around the parks and doing all that stuff, and I'm like, oh my God. But it was so much fun. But if you don't want that experience, you sit upstairs. You do a category 1 and 2, I believe, are on the floor. Category 3 is upstairs, less expensive as well.
I'll make this really quick. It is a little bit more of an expensive dining experience, but not like when you compare it to something like a signature.
It's $70.
Yeah.
It's $70. I'm telling you, you show me where you can get a better meal and show
Yeah.
for $70 anywhere in this town.
Yeah.
You can't. You can't.
That's what I was gonna say.
So
The
yeah.
value is
The value is
Consist-
still really, really good, even though if you've never been before, you might say, "Oh, that's a lot of money." I think the value is still above what you even. Think it is.
I'm not saying there's nobody out there that'll say this, but I've never met anybody that said I didn't think that was a good deal. I thought that was too expensive. But Fiasco, what about you?
Yeah, so I can't pick Hoop-de-Doo just because it's been about 15 years since I've been there, so I couldn't give that opinion. I got to get back there, but I'm probably going to have to say Sci-Fi. I mean, against popular opinion, I do order the same thing every single time. I probably haven't ordered anything different in the past 2 years. but that sandwich, I really do love it a lot. And then also, where can you really get that drive-in experience? I know there's still drive-ins, but they're rare and they don't happen often. Like a lot of drive-ins now, like they use their lots for different things. And I love drive-ins. I loved drive-ins as a kid, and I loved the vintage vibes. Every time I go to Sci-Fi, it feels good. I feel good there.
It's retro.
Yeah.
And that's something that Hollywood Studios has always done well, that retro.
Absolutely.
You know, you even just like the Art Deco
Yep.
design of the entranceway and some of the buildings. And I've always loved that about Hollywood Studios. I think it's now lessened with, Toy Story Land and Galaxy's Edge to a degree. But I still like that it's got that feel to it. So, all right, well, there you have it, folks. That's our discussion on the best restaurants at Walt Disney World with shows and Disney Cruise Line. And that will do it for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again next week with another edition of the Disney Dining Show. Have a great week, folks.